Hi, beautiful souls. It's Tan back here again today on this Astrology, Human Design, and Jinkies channel. And I'm here today with my wonderful team of astrologers and human design guides. So I'm here today with Sarah, Antonia, Adriana, and Cindy, who is a new member of our team. So just a quick introduction. Cindy has recently joined our team, and she's a human design guide. So she does human design readings as well as also an astrologer. So welcome to Cindy being on our YouTube channel. Right. So today we're going to be doing our next video in the 12th house series. And today we're going to be talking about Mars in the 12th house and what it means to have this planet here. So Mars would, for me, represent, first of all, I would say our action and the way we take action in our lives, our energy, and sometimes also represents our anger and how we use, release, or work with our anger, as well as the instinct. And depending on how you would interpret this, I would also look at Mars as being the masculine energy within all of us. So, you know, Venus being the feminine energies, Mars being the masculine energy or the yang type of energy within all of us. So what happens when Mars comes into the 12th house? This house, well, I'm sure you guys out there are familiar with the 12th house already since we've made several videos on this. But yeah, this house that represents the subconscious, dreams and sleep, and things that go to kind of dissolve and dissipate, sometimes also represents the womb. So very interesting placement. How do you guys feel about this?
Nightmares.
Why do you say that?
I think, well, because we often kind of also associate the 12th house with repressed feelings and feelings that we kind of hold down. So those kind of manifest in the dream realm. And so I think that someone with Mars in the 12th house might be familiar with night terrors and nightmares.
I thought you were going to say steam because it's Mars in this watery house. So it's bringing up that steam.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned steam because I think that having Mars in the 12th house has some similarities to Mars-Neptune contacts, but of course it's different in that way. But I find that this placement does create steam in a sense of like being a steamy individual. There's just something about the physicality or the aura, the energy of Mars and 12th house people that seem kind of sexy in a steamy, that steamy, sexy kind of way. Maybe not in an overt, obvious or dangerous way, but in a more subtle, a steamy way, like you said.
Yeah, I love that because, Mars in the first house will have that more obvious martial kind of persona or like veneer, like that martial quality will come up in much more of like a blatant, obvious way. Whereas in the 12th house, it's like in the rear view. It's just like behind the surface. So yeah, it's like pulsing from the inside. And I feel like in terms of like the embodiment of that person, yeah, it's happening in this private, secret place that it is very magnetic and mysterious.
Yeah, but it's very intrinsic, right? Because it's very, first house, 12th house, it's body and mind. So it's not happening within relationships. It's not happening in the 7th house or whatever. It's happening in a very internalized way. So people with Mars in the 12th house might actually notice that about them, even though it's in a hidden place. It's very true to them how they deal with their anger or just manifest that kind of energy.
Yeah, I think it's just also that inner conflict that you were talking of. Like if you don't learn in a younger age how to deal with these inner emotions that are coming up, that you might not be able to share all the time with the outside world, then this can probably also kind of lead to an anxiety, I would say.
Yeah, there's this feeling of dis-ease, I think, with the martial principle. And I think if it's happening in the 12th house we're stirring up like martial dis-ease in the subconscious and the inner psyche space. So as you perfectly said, Cindy, it's like, how do you wield that? How do you learn how to like train that so that you can work with it rather than it kind of overtaking you or dominating you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, like, not only anxiety, but if we're putting this planet of aggression and so much energy in the mind, where it needs space and flow, it can be really triggering for mental health. So it can bring up depression as well, and just any kind of mental health problem, because it's just too much in this space that should be flowy, calm. So
Yes, like this sanctuary of the 12th house is like up in arms, like there's this conflict.
Yeah, I think about Mars as our adrenaline, and that is like a primal response to fear. And so there's this fight or flight response that's manifesting internally in that kind of unconscious.
Yeah, I feel like, when you think about the 12th house and how Mars is not liking to be there, but we can also look at the opposite house, which is the 6th house, and how can we balance off that very active planet in the house that's not meant to be very active into the physical body and into the health in a healthy way. So I think that for Mars and 12th house people, it's really important to have some kind of exercise routine that allows them to flow, to have that energy being flown in a releasing kind of way, so it doesn't get repressed. But also, like, I think it would be something that requires a bit of discipline, like slow channeling discipline of that Martian energy, like yoga, especially hatha yoga, where your body does get heated, but it's a slow heat instead of the boom boom kind of a use of energy.
Nice. I was thinking like qigong and tai chi, like martial arts.
Yeah, I have this sensation with Mars in the 12th house of like the sentence that comes to mind is like that person moves in mysterious ways. And so like it would make sense to then implement a regime, like a kind of health regime, or like a what was the word you used? Like physical exercise routine, which has a mysterious quality to it, or that moves in ways that are not like kind of traditional or expected of the body.
Like dance, maybe even.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. Because I think like Mars with this kind of pushy energy can sometimes like even bring some kind of obsession in here, like kind of like being obsessed with like doing better or like being the best possible person. And then even if you kind of sit down to meditate, like all these voices are coming up. And so if you can find kind of a flow, or like you concentrate on the breathing while doing yoga, then this is kind of like keeping the voices like in the background and or help you to deal with them. And then just sitting silent and meditation.
Yeah.
Which is also important from time to time, of course.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys want to share your exercise routine or anything for those of you who have Mars in the 12th house in this team.
I feel like, Tan, you just you're outing people with Mars in the 12th.
I was going to throw in some Arnold Schwarzenegger real quick to throw them off the scent.
They want to hide, but you can't hide. Yeah.
I thought Sini was going. Well, I can share with you. I was taking notes. I was happily hearing you talk about Mars in the 12th. I have Mars in the 12th. Is trining my sun. So I do have this energy to exercise, and it's a good form of therapy for me. In fact, if I don't exercise, my body will hurt, especially my,
Joints.
the joints will
Oh.
start clicking, and I will be feeling unhappy if I don't exercise. And when I'm stressed, I will jump on the bike and I will just spend an hour spinning because I need to just get that out of my system. And I don't think that's aggression. That is just a lot of buildup energy. And I don't struggle with anxiety, but it's just, and it's not detrimental in a sense. It's just a need to put this energy on the outside. So it's like transmuting or alchemizing this mental activity and channel it through something bodily activity.
Hmm.
And I do like to punch some things as well.
Do you do any kind of slower kind of exercises like yoga or qigong and things like that?
I do enjoy yoga, but maybe because of that trying to my son, I don't know, I don't know why I do like to do some lift weights and just do more of an aggressive workout. But I do enjoy yoga, especially to regulate my system, my just bowel movements, not bowel movements, just my inner,
Your digestive system.
my digestive system. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking about something that like in medical astrology, the 12th house rules the feet. And like having Mars in the 12th house, I was just getting this image of like itchy feet, like having itchy feet and like wanting to be on the go and like moving around a lot. And I do have this feeling like with Mars in the 12th house that those that have it like struggle to be still or like be in one place. Like there's this kind of subconscious like agitation that is present.
Yeah, and I really like want to associate this placement with mind, body, soul connection. So body, of course, Mars, mind and soul, like that 12th house energy. And so anything that requires a mind, body, soul connection type of practice, I think is really good for this placement.
Something I've just been thinking about as well is like, how does that person with Mars in the 12th house access Mars? Because it's in a hidden house. So like the access point is maybe a bit more challenged. And something that I've noticed with people with Mars in the 12th house is like accessing their rage or their anger is like challenging. And so it has to be like accessed through other means, like other ways. So alternative ways of like accessing that, perhaps even through like, like hypnosis or like therapy that is accessing the subconscious directly. And yeah, just like that's curious to me, like how to access the things in the 12th house, because they tend to take a lot of they're like in the subconscious, they're hidden, they're not directly there.
Yeah.
So that's just something I've been thinking about.
Yeah, I want to mention like I just thought of this when you were saying this. Because I know that there are tantra practices, especially like tantra practices that channel your anger into orgasm, which I really feel is like kind of this placement. And if you're not connecting your body to what's actually in your mind and what's actually in your emotions and what's actually making you angry, like you can, for example, be punching something, but you're not really accessing what's deep inside into that punch, then you're not really doing, this the full release here. And that's why to be in a state of, for example, tantra or mindfulness, and then, heating that up and then channeling that anger slowly, visualizing it or getting into a space with it, and then slowly building that into sexual energy, like orgasm and things like that, is something that I would associate with this placement.
Yeah, I think that's also a way of like the somatic way of handling the Mars energy here. Or like what I also like to do is to try to feel where I feel the anger in my body, and then really go like breathe into that part of my body where the anger or sadness or whatever is sitting, and try like then with the exhale to like let it go and let like all this black dark energy access my body.
Yeah, super powerful. Because like these emotions, especially anger, you can feel it. You know, it'll be like something stuck in your throat, or, you know, something's happening in your stomach. And to be able to come back to that, and then like what Cindy said, releasing that is key here.
Yeah, I also like, as far as body response with fear, it's like shaking and trembling, and that adrenaline too as a response, you know, the fight or flight response that I was talking about. And so yeah, I just see like this Mars in the 12th house especially highlighting people's fears, and, you know, things manifesting in your life that, including other people, expressing the things that you're most afraid of, and seeing that in other people if you're repressing and not addressing the shadow of Mars, which is that fear. So overcoming that is courage.
Yeah, I
Wow.
feel Mars, like the 12th house, sorry, is like unintegrated material. Like it's like latent, unintegrated in the subconscious. It's there. It needs to be processed. It's waiting to be processed. And yeah, that makes sense to me what you're saying. And I'm thinking of like people with Mars in the 12th house, like having an aversion to anger in others, like having a real like distaste for the way that people express rage and anger, because it's an unintegrated part of the psyche, and like that like feels like a real projection of their own shadow, and there's like a rejection that I've noticed. And yeah, like just riffing off what I said before about how do you access like that Mars in the 12th house, I feel like there can be a challenge with like getting really angry, like having kind of a dysfunctional engine, like, you know, like an engine that stops starts, like getting really 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 angry, and then but like no anger for like months on end, having a dysfunctional rhythm with like the integration of that into like your everyday. I don't know.
Yeah, I was just saying before we started that people with Mars in the 12th can seem nice. They can seem like never get angry. And yeah, for me, I feel it's awkward for someone to just express their anger out of nowhere. It's just when you see someone getting mad, and mad for things that I don't think are worth being mad for, it's just awkward. And I don't like solving things. Of course, I'm a Libra rising as well, but still, I don't like solving things when I'm angry. When I'm angry, and we were talking about body manifestations, I get feverish. I literally get fever. I get hot. And I need to cool down, literally cool down before I make a decision. And for me, the best way to put it out there is just to vent. Like if you were wondering, I go to that Virgo energy where my Mars is, and I need to vent, and I need a safe space where I can say, I'm mad and I want to express these feelings, and have this like verbal, I don't want to say bad words, but yeah, just saying bad words, like no one was listening. Sometimes screaming, like for me, dealing with grief, I needed to scream. I needed to put my head on the pillow and scream, and put it just there, and like I was going to war or whatever. But for me, it has been very connected to that sign as well. Just strategizing with that energy and put it out there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I want to add to that, like I mentioned before as well, like Mars in the 12th house people, like you said, can seem nice and kind of like they don't like to appear angry and stuff, but not necessarily. Like I don't know if this is true for you guys, maybe you can resonate, but I do feel that there is that anger and that Martian energy just kind of behind the surface. Just it's there. and I can feel it. And sometimes it's felt as maybe like passive aggressiveness, but it's not obvious. And so it makes me feel like I would sometimes feel like I'm walking on eggshells around this Mars and 12th house person, because I'm not really sure. Like, it's kind of like, you're nice and you agree to a lot of things. You're very compromising and, you just get along. But there's just something about it that is just right there, like underneath, that I can feel like maybe I shouldn't say that, because I'm not sure if you're going to flip, kind of like that energy. So I think it's super interesting.
And Mars in the 12th is the ultimate hidden enemy.
Oh, yeah.
Terrifying. Like it could be yourself, or it could be that person manifesting as this kind of like elusively angry person.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, kind of like this like beast in the attic that's like there, and like it's like it's it's there, but you don't want to like wake the beast. Like, please don't wake the beast.
Yeah.
It's literally the first season of Stranger Things.
But I have to say, for me, like, I'm super patient with other people. But if I'm in a relationship and my partner just does something where I think that's so stupid, or why do you say that? I can just like flip in a moment, and they're like super surprised, like, oh my God, where is this coming now from? Like, I'm not used to you being like this. I'm like, okay, sorry, just give me a moment. And I don't know where this was coming from. I have to check and see like what's going on.
Okay, so there it is.
Yeah. It's trying to come out. It's kind of like anything in the 12th house is going to try and come out, but like in unexpected ways. It's never what you expect. It's non-linear. Like, it's not a direct relationship. It's just like seeping through the cracks of your reality, and you discover it, and you have to like then integrate that into your psyche and be like, okay, I need to work with this. I need to build a relationship with this part of me, because it's like totally unintegrated.
Speaking of, I wonder if there's any comment, not, no personal, but just like sexual repression, because like Tan was mentioning, like Mars being that passion. And so I just wonder how that, it's such an intrinsic part of Mars and Venus, passion. And so I just wonder if there's any like celebrity examples that you might have thought of, or anything like that might have arose.
To do with sexuality specifically?
Yeah, like Mars in the 12th house seems like that's tough to integrate, that passion and desire, or particularly like secrets, like gambling, even like a gambling problem, because there's that adrenaline that's associated with that addiction or that kind of thing.
Yeah, I was looking at examples, and I was thinking, it's in the 12th house. Like, I don't know if they have that problem.
Yeah.
I mean, I can share. It's not very intimate. It's very a lot of my Mars things seem to have happened very early in my life. So for me, that being sexually repressed happened by growing up in a religious household where I just couldn't. That was not a conversation. I was forbidden until I was married. So there was no even talk about it. No way. It's just a sin. So being sexually repressed can be a manifestation of that. But it also means that you go to hidden place to release that sexual tension or sexual repression. So that's actually something very interesting to bring up and validate for other people. Just don't do it like this is the escapist house. Just do it in a safe way, or be mindful of it.
And what would you say are some of the hidden places that the Mars and 12th house would go to express this repressed sexuality?
Well, for me specifically, I wouldn't tell anyone if I was getting sexually involved with someone while I was a teenager. I wouldn't say to anyone. So that was even a little bit dangerous because we live in a society where women are not as free or safe as they should. So yeah, no one knew who I was with, never. And I would just go to these secret places or meet in spaces where no one could ever find out. So yeah.
Yeah, and then this 12th house is a spiritual house. Like it does like create a desire to bring spirituality or something non kind of physical into it. So I feel like perhaps some kind of practice that is stirring the erotic, but it is coming in with like some spiritual content or like relationship to spirit, whatever shape that takes for the person.
And what do you guys think about this placement? As I mentioned previously, that I feel like Mars represents the masculine inside all of us. And how do you feel that for, let's say, someone who identifies more with their feminine, despite whatever their biological makeup is, but if they identify a lot with their feminine, I feel like sometimes this placement brings that hidden masculine nature to that feminine in a way that's not always very pleasant, so that feminine, that person who identifies with their feminine can own up to their masculine, which is hidden. So it's like it's like a shadow, in a shadow place, and they see that coming in through the other, so that they can own up to that. They can own up to their own power and not be in a state of victimization, we can say, or not only identify with the feminine. I don't know how you guys feel about that, or have any examples about maybe people in your life or anything who deal with this kind of situation.
I feel like for me, like the way that I conceptualize the Marshall principle with regards to masculinity, well, is more like, so the way I conceptualize it is that Mars has a lot to do with how we self-propel and like how we stand up. Like the word that comes to mind is like that we stand erect, that we are standing in a state of erection where we are like have a hardened will, that our will is like in a state of like crystallization, and it's moving with the will. So there's like a volitional assurance there with like that martial quality where it's like moving with one's will. And so with regards to like integrating that part of the self, like moving forward with like kind of self-assuredness, I think that like that can be a state, like there can be shame, I think, attached to that with Mars in the 12th house of like, like a deep desire to walk their path, walk the path of life with that, but then there being shame attached to it and having to do some like deconditioning around like shame, of being and embodying that type of archetype.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think that I was pretty much in my masculine energy over like the first 20 years of my life, probably. And even like now in the last years, I always see that if I'm not cautious, I always slip back into the pattern of like not allowing the other person, for example, to do something for me because I am independent. I can do it by myself. Like it's like this masculine energy from the back, always like hitting and saying, okay, you can do it by yourself. You don't need anyone else. And so I think that's always like the slide in between those two energies.
Just to respond to that, I feel like there's a deep independence with Mars in the 12th house, like an aversion to being dependent on anyone else. I know someone very well that has Taurus rising and Aries Mars in the 12th, and like this person is insanely self-directed, and I mean, yeah, good luck if you're trying to like help them. Like it's like they have the power to achieve everything that they want in life. But it seems just it just happens and flows, and I feel like it's totally just like there. Like, I don't know, it's not like jarring or like upsetting to the people in their environment. It's like done in a way that is maybe softened or yeah, but anyway, just like a deep self-assurance of like their life path.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up as well, because I think this placement, like on the positive end of things, like indicates somebody who is able to make their wildest dreams come true, you know, with whatever those dreams are. Like there's just this, like when they make up their mind, when they've overcome their fears and overcome their traumas and whatever that is, they're going to get there, you know, and they can dream big, you know, and make those big dreams come true. But then again, as well, sometimes I feel like this placement has a hard time admitting what those big dreams are, just because, like Antonia mentioned, the word shame, and to feel like if I really admit it to people and to myself that this is what I truly desire, you know, maybe it's just not going to be accepted or appropriate, or there's just some shame around that. And so, and this is really subconscious, you know, the Mars and 12th house person is not sitting around thinking, oh, I'm shameful of this. They're just avoiding it instead of going the direct route to getting there to their dreams, which they can totally do. They're like, oh, I should do this or go here or do that. And they sidetrack and they don't get there. And things get repressed.
And shame doesn't only operate in like one direction. Like talking about shame with martial things, like it can also be that like you're just inherently like martial and you can access your martial qualities, but that shame can be projected onto other people, where you're like rejecting in others like their martial qualities and not allowing them to take up space in their martial ways. You know, that's a formulation of shame, where like the way that other people are embodying Mars in their life, or the masculine traits, or the yang energy, whichever way you conceptualize it, like if you're rejecting that in them, that is a form of shame that's that's in you.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, I just wanted to say, Tan, that like you said, making your wildest dreams come true. And when I was doing some research, I saw that Tim Burton has Mars in Taurus in the 12th house, and he literally crafted an entire career depicting nightmares and created a world of his own and made all of his nightmares come true.
Right. I saw also Stephen King, Mars in the 12th
Oh, really?
house.
Wow.
Yes. Lots of references to nightmares, because I mentioned to you all also Kid Cudi, who had an entire album about nightmares and night terrors and that kind of thing. So, and also
Wow.
fueled with like sexual references and stuff. So it's
Yeah.
really interesting how he, you know, portrayed that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like just these amazing people who are not afraid of their wildest dreams, who are not afraid to admit to themselves that, you know, this is me. This is what I want to create. It's powerful.
Oh,
Yeah.
and we would be remiss if we did not mention David Bowie.
Yes. Oh my God.
Where's fan club?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Turns out.
Every video. Did you want to say something, Adriana?
Yeah, I was thinking of the nightmares and how can they be so alive to us as Mars in the 12th. Like I experienced some tough aggression things in my life. And yeah, it was tough on me for like, I meant to say that in this video that Mars in the 12th house people need boundaries. They do. I mean, before I even knew what boundaries were, I suffered a lot in my body, and that affected my mind. So there was physical aggression that sparked a lot of mental aggression. So even in early age, I would get into fights a lot in school and get bullied, and I couldn't hold it in me. So I would just be punching people around, and it was unexpected. But at the same time, I was not validated for my anger. The only person who did validate that was my dad, because I grew up with his war stories. So I had those like fantasies of hurting people in my head. And when the time came to just, behave and respond to aggression, I would be aggressive as well, because all of those fantasies or stories would come alive. And I mean, I had to take a hold of that, because no one wants to. This was reoccurrent. Like I suffered from physical aggression, just random physical aggression, out of nowhere. I took a beating in 2017, if I'm not wrong, because I was in the streets, and all of a sudden, like, someone came behind me and started punching me and just kicking me. So it was out of nowhere. So that hidden Mars was very real for me. That manifestation of getting hit or just suffering this aggression out of nowhere happened for me a lot. So I did need to get this, be mindful of this aggression and these boundaries. What do I need to solve in myself in order to prevent this from happening? And a lot of that came with controlling my own anger. And because you were just saying, like, you don't know what's happening in the mind of a Mars in the 12th. Like, they might be, you're not sure if they're angry. When I was younger, I used to like imagine like hurting people that I didn't like, and that would be my release. That was toxic. That was really toxic. So I needed to just be mindful of that and heal from every pain, because I would be like, well, physical pain is not as hurtful as mental pain. So whatever, I prefer to take a beating than to be hurt emotionally. But I was getting hurt both ways. Yeah, it was pretty hardcore for me. That's why I give so much attention to my Mars, because it manifested a lot for me. So yeah, all of those things, those nightmares are real on both levels. It was real for me it is real for me in my dreams, and still in my mind sometimes. And it was real at the physical level as well.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Adriana. I think a lot of people might be able to relate to that as well if they're watching.
Yeah, I think it's really important for us to validate the violence and the trauma that comes with Mars in the 12th house. And, coming back to that idea of like it being a prenatal house, or like the sign that is just before the sign that your ascendant is in, and it has to do with like the womb, like time and like prenatal conditioning, etc. Like, I feel like anything in the 12th house does really condition us to our perception of the world and how we perceive things, how we experience the world as well. And like, there's like a deep fear as well of like being attacked or being vulnerable, and like because of actual lived experiences, because of childhood conditioning or things that have happened in life and that have like severely wounded the subconscious sphere, and that need care and tending to. As you said, Adriana, you give a lot of space to your Mars. I feel like it's a very tender wound that needs to be very much looked after.
Yeah, I just want to say, this is something that I learned from my therapist a few years ago. He said, there are no such things as thought crime. You can think whatever you want to think. Anybody can think whatever they want to think. This is our freedom. Think whatever you want to think. And to think that it's wrong, to think that you want to hurt somebody, that's going to repress a lot of things. Like, who hasn't thought of that? I mean, I've thought of hurting people sometimes. I don't have Mars in the 12th house. It's normal human nature to have these thoughts going, and to have the imagination, be a safe space for us to release. But yeah, as well, like what Antonio was saying, I sometimes picture like Mars in the 12th house as like a veteran or a soldier who has come back from war, and they have like post-traumatic stress symptoms, the disorders, and they need to heal that. There's just something that they've carried coming back from war, and it's important to bodily heal, like what Cindy's like, somatic healing, you know, not just to be aware, not just to know that I've been hurt, and not just to mentally say I'm gonna, you know, be tougher. That's not enough. It's like the body has to heal. The embodiment process is so important for the healing.
Yeah, and I think also especially for this martial energy here, like having this like physical strength actually, that you are really discerning what you use your energy for. At least this is what I also learned in my life. Like if I see I have the energy and I see I can use it in a fruitful way, I think that's also always like this Mars energy, like is it really resourceful? And then I can go full in. But then I think I would say the 12th house is also like a house of service. So like if you go in with like your full energy and into this like selfless giving, then I had the experience that a lot of people took advantage of it. So like Adriana said before, she had to set boundaries in that way. And I also had to set boundaries in this way. And just to like in a way stand up actually for yourself, I think is important with this energy, and start to communicate clearly and yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And just like accepting that selfishness is not a bad thing. That selfishness is necessary and important in life, in to feed yourself first before you try to save other people, you know.
Yeah, primal instinct. And you know, I keep going back to fear because I like fear. But I noticed also that Edgar Allan Poe was had Mars in the 12th house based on whatever time they've, you know, estimated for him. But I was thinking about the poem The Raven, which starts, once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary, there came a rapping at my chamber door. So it's just like this fear, this like instinctual, I don't know, just like it is very somatic, the energy that I get from Mars. So incorporating the mind with the 12th house, that, you know, nightmarish kind of fear is really, I love it.
Yeah, that's funny you said that, because every time I'm spooked or there's a weird sound in the house or whatever, I'm the one just going ahead and figuring out. I'm like, I'm not scared. I'm just, it's funny because sometimes I have some stories with that. I actually have some spooky stories. I have a lot of spooky stories, and that's dumb. Like I don't back down. In my mind, when you poke the bear, when it's awakened, it's awakened. So it's there and it's ready to fight. And it's kind of crazy sometimes.
Yeah, I was just thinking about how like with like action, like taking action, like with the martial aspect, that martial aspect of like aligning your mind with your actions. And you know, because Mars is in 12th house, I feel like there can be a lot of time spent kind of like making decisions that are detrimental to your well-being, because Mars can't act with clarity. So there's like a haze over the decision-making process, which can lead you astray or lead you into places where you've made decisions that have ultimately harmed you, which is okay. And like there's like a lot of like, you know, mistakes that can be made, and that's okay too. And just like kind of processing that fear of like messing up, you know, of like making a mistake and like ruining your life because you made a mistake. And there's like a catastrophe kind of brain here, and that I'm getting like, yeah, like yeah, and I've seen that happen a lot with the Mars in the 12th house of like, Kind of, yeah, like, because I do associate the 12th house with like nocturnal spaces and like moving in the night in ways that maybe like you've gone down the wrong alley, you know, like you've gone down the wrong alley and it's taken you down that wrong road, which has led to something that's harmed you. And it was like kind of this unfortunate situation and like there's a wound there or trauma there. And like finding acceptance with those things. And like learning how to like act with alignment and act in alignment with your self-care needs, I feel like is really important here, and like maybe like pacing yourself with like the decision-making process to allow the mind to come into alignment with that decision making. I don't know, what do you guys think?
That actually correlates with something that I wrote down from Robert Hand from Horoscope Symbols, where he says, they undermine the ego because they are denied by it. So those feelings undermine the ego because they are denied by it. So that repression and keeping those things pushed down.
Yeah. Like I mentioned, like just admit to yourself, like, what do you want? Admit to yourself how you're going to get what you want. Just go for it rather than, you know, going around it. Yeah.
Yeah, sidestepping.
Yeah.
Or sometimes maybe even the fear of like closures. I have the feeling like just if it comes to like to the end of maybe a relationship or some work or job or whatever, then it's always like trying to figure out, oh, well, is it bad now to end this? Like there's always this fear coming in. I don't know if Adriana, if you can relate or if this is coming from somewhere else, if it comes to closures.
I mean, yeah, I was trying not to address it because I'm not escaping in that sense, but I usually say what I want in relationships. Well, in jobs, I every time I was done with a job, I was done. I was honest about it. I was honest about my feelings. I was honest about what I thought was going wrong and just express it. But I do think that's a manifestation that can happen for Mars as well. I think that I got through these processes so young, and again, these experiences that I had no other choice than to transmute it early. So now I'm able to say what I want, especially to the people that I'm comfortable with. So I wasn't before, especially as a teenager and a younger girl. But now, for me, it's not a problem anymore. For now.
I had a question for you guys, that like something I've noticed as well is a deep aversion to being alone with Mars in the 12th house, like literally being terrified of being on your own. I've met someone who's a close friend who has this, and they do not know how to be on their own and they avoid it at all costs, and self-care doesn't exist. Like there is no routine with self-care. There is constant like need to be surrounded, because I think of that Mars, like that fear of like the skeletons in the closet or something.
I love solitude. I love to be alone. But I don't know if this is maybe because my Mars is in Taurus in the 12th house. So it's all, I don't know if this is maybe related, but so
I like to be alone so much. I lived alone since I was 18 until I was 22, maybe 23. I'm not sure. And those were the best days of my life because to the point of being detrimental, enjoying so much being alone, and people being worried like you don't get out. And I would, yeah, I mean, I was just, I enjoyed my space. I had my my own space for the first time when I was 18 and I was free. So I enjoyed to be alone so much that I had people saying like, you need to come out often, because that's not that's not healthy. But yeah, I can see that happening to other people. I mean, a lot of things happened when I was alone, having to deal with the ghosts in the, how do you say it?
Skeletons. Skeleton closet.
Yeah.
I had to deal with those while I was alone, and maybe that's why I processed a lot of things. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
I wonder if being alone in this case might also mean being not in a relationship, if that kind of makes sense, or not attached to somebody. Because you can be physically alone, but if you are still emotionally and mentally attached to somebody else, that can bring a lot of comfort. I mean, that still brings that security. But to really be alone, as in not in any kind of close sexual relationship with another, I wonder if that's maybe what brings in a bit of that anxiety from Mars in the 12th.
Yeah, the example that I have in mind is there has been like occurrences of like kind of like addiction to sex and addiction to being in bond with others in order to avoid being alone, because of, I think, the unprocessed material that was waiting to be processed. As you said, Adriana, like there were things that needed to be processed and this person was not particularly addressing them, and so that was just what was challenging with the experience, and so having escapism to avoid that at all costs.
Yeah, Mars also has a lot to do with pleasure, maybe. So then they were probably kind of like addicted to the pleasure from another person, or getting this from another person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that heat, that Martian heat, and that like, yeah, it does make sense.
I've also noticed that sometimes in Mars in the 12th house, people are on some kind of substance, like maybe it's alcohol or drugs or something. They just leak this unexpected anger or unexpected like energy that's a little bit scary that you wouldn't really like expect when they are sober. I don't know if that's something you can relate to, but I've noticed that.
No.
I have noticed that too.
She said no.
No, I don't. Look, when I've gone through that, I just talk nonstop. It's crazy. It's crazy how much I talk. Like it's like you need to shut up. But not aggression, no. I just talk way too much, and I'm very passionate about what I'm talking, and yeah, never aggression.
Yeah, that makes sense with it being in Virgo. So
Yeah, totally. Yeah, like all the details. Like, do you want to know all the details of everything that I know?
Yes.
Here it is.
okay, guys. Do you have anything else that you want to add? I feel like wow, we've like been like talking a lot with this placement. We're almost like an hour, but
Makes sense.
is there anything else, last messages you want to add or give to the audience?
If there's something, sorry, I'm just going to say, if there's something you take from this conversation, is to be comfortable with your anger and put it out there some way.
Yeah, all those raw, primal, instinctual, fear-based, just really embracing those and incorporating those into your conscious mind in some kind of way, whether that, again, is through martial arts or some sort of action oriented time by yourself, whatever that involves, definitely going to be really helpful.
And therapies around anger and rage and like basically having safe containers, like the 12th house needs safe containers for that thing to be expressed and integrated into the conscious mind. Here we're talking about martial things, so having a safe container for your Mars to express itself, like super important for this placement.
Yeah, and making your wildest dreams come true. Please,
Most importantly.
just do it. Just admit to yourself, this is what you want, and just do it. Yeah.
And maybe first taking time for yourself to see what are your wildest dreams.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think the 12th house needs time for things to arise. So definitely like letting it come to the surface.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. This was such an amazing conversation. And for you guys out there who are watching, if you'd like to share your experiences with having Mars in the 12th house, then feel free to comment below. And yeah, we'd love to read your comments and your experiences. And if you'd like to get a reading, you can also visit our website, tanastrology.com, to get a reading from any of our wonderful astrologers on the team. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button if you haven't. If you already subscribed, thank you very much, beautiful souls, for always coming along and watching our videos. So we'll see you guys again soon. Bye, everyone.
Ciao.